Let's see if this is actually working. I really hope it is. And come on, come on, come on. Oh, we are good. Let's see if this is actually working. We are going. We are going. It is. I need to put in my headphones or we're going to get a lot of feedback though. But we should be live. All right, let me bring back up the Zoom. All right. Unmute, unmute. Why are you both muted? Lisa is muted for some reason, but Allie, I think you should be good.
I am unmuted.
You are unmuted, and I'm trying to unmute Lisa. Okay. Up the Zoom. All right.
I was thinking I would stay muted so as to be quiet. Is that okay?
Oh, if you want. Ellie, are you hearing double?
I want to stay muted so that Allie can read in silence.
All right.
I was thinking I would stay muted so as to be quiet. Is that okay?
Oh, if you want.
There's a lot of feedback. This is really weird, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm muting again. Bye.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take care of a little bit more technical stuff while I figure this out.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself in the interim, so it's not anything that you're doing. This is me clicking on the mute, okay?
Okay. Well, I think we are good to go. Okay, can you guys hear me? Shake your heads. Okay, good. I think I figured out why all the sound was going back and forth, and I believe we are recording or we are streaming, and we should be good in the studio as well over at YouTube. So anybody who is there watching us, I apologize for the first about 5-10 minutes that we were there going through a bunch of weird stuff as we figure out this technology. But we are here, everything is going, and we're going to get started with our very first reading here for Crucible, which is the online reading series for Glass. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about tonight. I've got two of my favorite people are here to read with us, and I have wanted to do a reading series through Glass for quite a while, and in the middle of all of this, it seemed like a good idea to start it. So we are going to do that. A quick update on tonight's event. Unfortunately, Fox Fraser Henry was supposed to be reading with us, but she's not feeling well, so she's not going to. But we are hopeful that we're going to be able to bring her back on another reading. Until then, we're going to go through and just kind of get started. We're going to start with Allie Marini, who I'm very excited to have with us today. I've been reading a lot of Allie's work for quite a while, and I super thrilled about a year or two ago when Allie agreed to send me a poem for our 2018 midterms election issue. And then she sent us a chapbook. And I was really excited about that. So Allie is, she is a cross-genre writer. She writes poetry, fiction, she writes essays. She's the author of many, many collections, including this one, which is very, very excellent. It's called And When She Tasted of Knowledge. It came out from Nomadic Press. Another of hers is called Exquisite Duet. Unfortunately, this press, I believe, is no longer around, so we can't get this one, but I have a copy and it's awesome. She's also recently, her most recent book is called This Apiary, and it was just released by us here at Glass Poetry Press. It is fantastic. I am biased, but nevertheless, I think everyone should read this book because it's absolutely amazing. Excuse me. She is also the author of one of my favorite chapbooks, Southern Cryptozoology, which I will never say correctly. So go out and buy all of her books. If you go to her website, just Google Allie Marini and you can find information about getting all of that. It's wonderful. Her work is absolutely amazing. So she is going to read to us for us tonight, and I'm just going to pass over the mic to her and let her take over. Allie, you should be in control now.
Awesome. Oh, I feel so powerful. So thank you for inviting me to do this tonight. And thank you for giving This Apiary a home. So I'm going to start off with a piece that was requested by my best friend, Wes. I hope you're on, Wes. Here you go. So this piece is called The Southern Girl's Guide to Getting Your MRS Degree. First of all, let's talk sweet tea. Yankees joke about the secret being sugar, and it is, partly, but the real secret's in the baking soda. It takes the bitterness out of the tea, makes it sweet taste sweeter, just like you should be for your husband. Neutralize all the bitterness. Be just sweet as Southern tea. Don't squeeze them tea bags. You know what I'm talking about, girl. Know your way around the kitchen. Cornbread. Make sure it's baked in a cast iron skillet. Biscuits. Always make cat heads. And don't listen to anyone who says they come out just as good with butter, because that ain't true. Use lard or Crisco. And always use a fork because your hot hands will melt the fat. And then they won't raise up right. Grits. Keep stirring, even though it's tedious, because the second you step away is when they turn to glue. Fried chicken needs to set up overnight in buttermilk or pickle juice, whichever your man likes best. Always use peanut oil to fry it, and a little cornstarch in the flour goes a long ways. Speaking of peanuts, even though it's just peanuts, water, and salt, there are, in fact, ways to jack up boiled peanuts, so be patient. Cook them long and low over low heat. Make sure your ambrosia is the best one around. But don't be surprised if even with all that good cooking at home, he still steps out for junk food and drive-through. When he does, keep Alka-Seltzer in the cupboard, and you get used to the taste of your own tongue, because you're going to have to learn how to swallow it down. Keep a tidy house. Make sure there's order when he comes home. Always make the bed. Never leave dishes in the sink if you can avoid it. And make sure the laundry basket never overflows. Iron his pants even if you know that he'll never notice that you do that. But when you go out shopping, make sure that he pushes the boogie. Taking out the trash is always husband work. Make sure you stay firm on those 2 points, even if you learn to bend like a cattail in the wind on everything else. Pray that when your belly swells, it's a son that comes first, because then your man can love the little girl that follows without reservation. If she has the misfortune to come first, be kinder to her than you want to be, even when she's awful, because she'll always suspect that her daddy loves his son better than he loves her, and she'll be right. You remember what that's like. He will drink, he will gamble, he will smoke and swear, and chances are he'll cheat. Keep saltines and ginger ale in the cupboard and aspirin in the medicine cabinet. When you do the laundry, keep whatever loose change and dollar bills you find in a coffee can on top of the fridge so you have pin money in case he isn't very good at poker. Don't ever tell him if he isn't very good at poker. Take up smoking Winston's yourself and pretend you don't smell the smoke on his shirt cuffs. In mixed company, remember to say, "Oh, for heaven's sake," when his language is salty. But behind closed doors, keep a few choice phrases tucked in your pillowcase. If he cheats, play dumb, but remember it. Pray that he keeps coming home to you, and that even if he does love her, he'll always love you more. Won't hurt any less if you don't say anything about it, but it'll at least keep the peace. Learn to love being on your knees in the bedroom and the church pews. Understand that you will be calling upon Jesus in both places, albeit for mightily different reasons. Your praise chorus will not always be in the holy covenant of your matrimonial bond. Oftentimes, the pleas you begin in the bedroom on Saturday night when he stumbles home drunk and reeking of rosewater perfume and cigar smoke, you'll just have to finish up on Sunday morning. Face scrubbed, raw, and shiny. Understand that sometimes your prayers will go unanswered. This is just the way of faith. If his hand ever raises up to you, turn away like this so your nose don't break. If he blackens your eye, stay home till it fades. If he hits, remember what I told you about sweet tea. Neutralize the bitterness and stay sweet, but remember it. If you don't bring flowers, come home for a spell. Wait till next time to tell your daddy and your brothers. If all else fails, remember this other thing that I told you about sweet tea. If you forget to add the baking soda, or if you squeeze the tea bags, it can get mighty bitter. Bitter tea, even if it's sweetened, can hide a lot of things. Just like life who follows all the rules. So if you reach your wit's end, you can always be real careful not to touch it yourself and stir a spoonful of sap from the oleander tree out back into a sweet tea. Now, let me finish fixing your veil. All right, so this next piece is from Here Comes Hell, which is out on Dancing Girl Press. This piece is called If My Body is the House I Grew Up In, Let's Burn It from Cellar to Rafters. Noxious against the side of my cheek turned away, he is a tailpipe. His breath, the exhaust, smog and emissions, a jumble of letters and phonemes exhausted. Here I am again on the dirty linoleum. There's something I was supposed to translate, from rounded vowels and staccato consonants, all of which somehow spell my name. But once you exhaust the word bank with spilled fuel on the floor, all that's left to clean up are a few stray syllables and maybe some blood. A tooth, tucked under my daughter's pillow, I climb, bone-wrecked and exhausted, under the sheets with her, constructing a blanket fort from all the promises I'm too exhausted to keep, exhausted escape plans, a fortress in flames from all that spilled fuel on the floor. Noxious exhaust rising to heaven in oily plumes after combustible materials are carelessly left alongside each other with a Bunsen burner. Here, let's just call it what it is, a pilot light. I'm too exhausted to translate any more words scrawled in lemon juice and held feet first over the flame. Baby girl, come here to mama. There's just too much fuel spilled on the floor, and the exhaust fumes are making us sleepy. Under the covers, waiting for a fairy to come retrieve my knocked out tooth from my knocked up luck, when really it just comes down to the fact that I've exhausted every resource while grinding down the bones, spilling fuel on the floor and waiting for combustible materials, the exhaust fumes that was formerly man and wife to ignite a wildfire or die exhausted embers. Because every open door leads to more fuel spilled on more floors and bone-wrecked bleeding exhaust seeping through the crack in my tooth, the till death portion of our parting done with a lead pipe on the dirty linoleum. Exhaust the word bank for phonemes and diphthongs that translate into I'm sorry. Blanket forth my daughter back into bed with promises of a fairy and a bloody tooth, exhausted, busted burner of my body, eating up all combustible materials. I am a pilot light, hissing in an empty kitchen with the bone wreck of his body on dirty linoleum. Wreck bone in bed holding my daughter who won't stop wailing while gas filters in room by room like exhaust. Why can't you just stop crying? Aren't you exhausted? I know I am. We are waiting for a spark to take down the whole house to exhausted embers and us inside it. This piece is also from Here Comes Hell. It's called Vuk. Vuk is what boys are named in Poland after women have had several miscarriages, because it is believed that witches will not take the sons if they are named Vuk, which means wolf. So witches are afraid of wolves, and this is that poem. There's infinity on either side of motherhood. I am willing to down a cup of sleep. Wild mushrooms are twinned. Poison sometimes looks delicious. Bad luck when the moonblood stops. The tea that makes you free is brewed from white soft rot, scraped from dead wood, born from the dirt below. This is an abattoir for dreams. Infinity is an agony for women who bear no sons. Each side is shuttered. I want this more than I want to be good. I want to be what women of the forest are. Only witches eat babies and are afraid of wolves. So, I'm gonna read one from When She Tasted of Knowledge, which is one of my favorite chapbooks because it gets to talk about all the shit that I love, which is weird women of religion and history. So this poem is a response poem to a poem that I translated from Günter Grass, who is a Polish/German writer of the later 20th century. This piece is called How Embers and Apples Are a Recipe for Disaster. This is how I came to be a footnote in my own story. Long before Eve and her indiscretion with the apple, there was me. Back then, wolves were gods and lived in the clouds like raptors. They were the keepers of the flame. I didn't steal fire. Wolf promised it to me. I just knew he was lying. Men are so predictable, especially gods. Even as he panted down my back and nipped at my ear, I knew he was planning to eat me after he spilled his seed. So I waited until he slept and took less than he'd promised, just 3 small coals hidden in my cunt. One place I knew he'd never bother to look, having already taken what he wanted. No more gagging down rotten meat, no more picking strings of tendon from my teeth. All that kindling we gathered, bundles of branches and heaps of dry leaves, just begging to burn. But here's where I paid the price. I gathered my husbands together to show them the bounty I'd brought home to share. Trusting them was my fatal flaw. So predictable. Fire didn't quiet their bellies. It only made them hungrier for ideas, for language, for words to describe their dinner. Raw and cooked were sparks unleashing a wildfire. While I busied myself learning fire and its uses, how liver shrinks, how a boar's head should simmer slow in a clay vessel, how fish cooks quicker than it takes for a sapling skewer to scorch, how stuffed sweetbreads need nothing more than a cover of hot ash, how bacon crisps over a bed of hot stones, how even blood can be whisked into a pudding. That was when the wolf got even with me for what I'd taken. Oh, Eve, you should have paid attention, learned from my mistake. The kitchen and the birthing room are where all who follow us pay penance. Fire, apples, fuel insatiable hungers in men. So predictable for religion, for language, for politics, for metal and tools and bricks. An apple and 3 hot coals were all it took to hand them the means of writing history. Naturally, as history is written by the victors, we were edited down to footnotes, which no one bothers to read. All right, one from Crypto. This is my partner Brennan's request. It's his favorite one. Wampus Cat. Location, Tennessee. Status, unconfirmed. Description, legendary felid. Men have always gathered in tribes. Wolf brothers, all of them, telling stories around their campfire, no women allowed. I changed that. Eavesdropping in the shadows of the leather tent flaps discovered by the tribal medicine man. My transformation was meant to be a punishment. Foolish man, what a boon, what a gift, this skin changing. Whole women are nothing, half woman, half cat. I am invincible, frothing hungry for blood and knowledge. You know what I want, and I have the will and means to take it now. Leaping branch to branch in the upturned spikes of trees, haunting the forests of your nightmares. I'm a woman on a mission. You can hear me. I know you can. I am of the earth. I am death. I am nemesis. Just try not to hear me. I dare you. In 3 moons' time, you will be buried. And nothing, not the long dead medicine man nor the white preacher who replaced him, can save you from me. My partner's over there. This one is requested by my other best friend, Laurel. And this is from this beautiful book called This Apiary, published by this amazing poetry press called Glass. I think you might have heard of them. So this piece is called A Brood Split by Swarming. And for this, I'm going to shout out a very special thank you to Cassandra Dallett and Arisa White. They host a workshop here in the Bay Area called On to 6. And this poem was from a writing sprint in one of Arisa White's workshops. So this is called A Brood Split by Swarming. A poison tree bears no fruit. I am rooted in this weed-riddled garden with a husk of a sweet gum tree felled in an electrical storm. This is not the disaster I once believed. Without crops, I have learned to find edible plants in the rough, lovage and swamp cabbage poking through rusty chicken wire, mushrooms fruiting beneath the decay of fallen branches. The stump of a tree struck by lightning becomes hollow, dry, the perfect place for a swarm of bees to build a colony. This fruitless tree is host to a secreted honeycomb. This apiary, my heart, this tree, a queen. All right. So I like to write about poison plants a lot. I grow poison plants. I have a really, really extraordinary garden full of foxglove plants and also a couple of nightshades. So this piece is called Bête Noire, which means the black beast. To make a pet of hate, first tame the dark beast, call it a kitten, sleeve its claws in vinyl, feed it gruel to render it toothless. Name yourself then the ruiner of teeth, despoiler of things tame. Poison, entrapped and drowned beneath the watery bane, name the toxins off like an invocation, the hymnal of witches. Wolf's bane, monk's hood, alkaloid, Delva's helmet, a flowering buttercup whose kisses kill. Henbane, stinking nightshade, mandrake, hallucinations boiled down, inventions of flight in a draught, use it to stave off the plague. Common dogbane, feed the wings of queen butterfly, humble mouse moth. Rat's bane, simple white arsenic, the evil eye, friend of the unhappy wife, an adder's tongue to cure his mind, maker of merry widows, a cauldron of the devil's best misery, beasts in black dresses, a simmering broth boiled down from the marrow and gristle, pot full of bones. All right. And the last poem that I am going to read is from my 30-30 project, which I am doing with another poem. We are writing epistolary poems back and forth to one another. And I made a joke the other day that the poet that I'm collaborating with is writing like a real book of poems about a moment in history. And I'm kind of just writing dirty poems about a druid and typo negative. So here we go. Dear E, I say that typo negative blood is more receptive, universal, a universe full of donors, a donation, a sedative. I dismantle myself into a crow, skullcap crushed by a murderous game. There, a swarm of yellow flies, thorax, mandible, maxillae. I'm smeared in red cell, in venom, sore to the pressures. Dear armor, dear barber's pole, dear ghost of contact, I do not miss impact against my cheekbone. Darkening on darkening, a bruise on the surface. All right, that's going to be my set. So thank you. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate you making a space on Easter Sunday, no less, to listen to some weird witchy poems.
You're muted.
Oh, yep, nope, no, I'm not. No, that was great. Thank you so much, Allie. That was fantastic. Now we are going to turn to our second reader, and Lisa Fay Coutley is not just an amazing poet, she's a longtime friend of mine, so I'm super glad to have her here. Lisa was one of the first Glass poets. She was in our very first issue way back 11 years ago. And it has been a joy to watch her career just grow and grow and grow. She is the author of the chapbook In the Carnival of Breathing, which won the Black River Chapbook Competition. She is also the author, if you are lucky, of Backtalk.
Oh God, oh God.
Which is
Sorry.
impossible to find, but I have a copy. Her first book, Errata, was the winner of the Crab Orchard series in Poetry Open Competition Award, and it was published by Southern Illinois University Press. And her newest book is Tether. Tether was just released about a month ago, and it is out by Black Lawrence Press. It is brilliant, and you should all go over and buy a copy from Black Lawrence, or go over to Lisa's website and buy a copy direct from her. Lisa's work is widely published. She writes poetry, she writes essays, creative nonfiction. She's been honored by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Academy of American Poets. She's also an assistant professor of poetry and creative nonfiction in the Writers Workshop at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I'm very excited because I've never had a chance to hear her read, and now I finally get to. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisa. Give me 1 second, and you're on.
Wow, I had no idea, Tony, that you had never heard me read. That's kind of amazing. Thank you so much, Tony, for doing this and for inviting me to be a part of it. And I need to just first apologize to Allie because you were giving a super sassy, super amazing reading. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, before we entered the YouTube channel, we were blessed with a Zoom crasher who exposed himself to us, which already had me pretty fucked up. But then my dog is like dying to go outside. So I leave the computer to let him out, which I already felt bad doing, stepping away, as Allie can see me step away. And then I look and I see him running in this way that tells me I've left the gate open. So then I had to run out and chase after him in my slippers in the snow. And so I'm so sorry, Allie, that I missed part of your reading. I felt like such a jerk, but holy shit, that was crazy. So here we are on Easter, and yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. You could never have a reading on Easter any other time, right? So I guess this is a perk of isolation or shelter in place. But I'm also really aware that for a lot of people, this is a day where you're lacking community, where normally you might have the comfort of your community. And so hopefully this can be a bit of a balm to see familiar faces and to hear some poems, or at least that's my hope, though I don't make any promises about the uplifting nature of my work. So that said, let's dive right in. I want to start with a poem from the manuscript I'm working on. So the third collection in progress. Gosh, I don't think there's anything that you really need to know about this poem for me to just start. So, Letter to the Aftermath. There was a time before this screen, though our bodies only remember it, like a room with a wall where once there were portholes. Light no longer falling over some lover's slouched shoulders in the tub. I made a garden, and still I wasn't happy. 66 sunflowers, and the only screaming I heard was mine. A hole so deep, a darkness found only within earth, a detonation waiting. The morning I felt most lost from myself, I could no longer hear my plants in bloom. I erased my someday list. Clouds were just clouds. I tried to remind myself, crows won't eat their dead. Instead, they gather around a body in silence or ruckus. Whether you believe they grieve there, sometimes moments, sometimes days, or you believe they gather data to avoid their own demise, says everything your family needs to know about you. I believe Earth is the one last mammoth to flower. Her beauty, who decided one chance to weapon her beauty was simply not enough. She'd bloom 9. What if that is the only story we have to tell you? The voice of our planet, so quiet inside us, we could never see her breathing from space, is a heart beating, and it was always going to be too late. So it's going to be another happy look. I want to read just a handful of poems from Tether because it's brand new. And this is technically my 3rd reading from the book, all done in my PJ pants in the comfort of this very chair right here. So, but I'm going to keep saying it. Happy birthday, little book. It just came out April 1st, and it's a book of distances. Distance between people, distance between family members, lovers, and distance from the self and the self, if you will. I became I guess I just got obsessed with writing poems about clouds and the sky and planets. And in the process of just exploring those things, I heard the Apollo astronauts say that, of course, they thought going to the moon was the important part of their mission until they saw Earth new, small and fragile and in so much darkness. And they had this new perspective on the planet, on their lives. And I wanted to know how a person might get that sort of distance from themselves in order to have healthy clarity. So one of the ways that I did that in the book, tried to do it in language anyway, was to create like a literal distance between a self and a self, if you will. So between an astronaut and an earthbound speaker. And they talk to each other back and forth throughout the book. And this is the second one. And I don't know why, but I'm generally fond of reading from the earthbound speaker's perspective. So I thought tonight I would force myself to read one from the astronaut's perspective. And, just another way for me to really make myself look at things new, or at least to try to. So this felt fitting for today. Astronaut, on Rilke and Jesus. It's fair to say we've stretched our strengths between the two great opposing poles, and God is learning wonder and suffering in the space between us. Why should I be alarmed to know not one stone will be left, that all will be thrown down, which is always already straight from where I am, looking back or looking forward toward our glass dark home with no answers. I've become one pole and you another, and in silence, emptiness, in loneliness, belonging. Coasting away is the way to still the fragile gathering rivers of light, gold you can see nowhere but burning, life collecting like mold where it grows most easily. I fall more in love every day. Another way that I played a little bit in Tether that I did not in errata as a way to sort of just explore distance was to play with like sort of just shedding punctuation and using space instead. So white space on the page. And sometimes that led me to even more surreal associative leaps than I might normally make, which is, I like to leap. But so this poem may be a little bit trickier to read to a person who's not actually reading the poem, but here we go. The dream talks. In its sleep, we're the beached boat with the hole in its hull, or you are the wooden wheel in the dirt hole I am trying to fill. Or the leak just born of the faucet is somehow holy, and we are the forgotten prayer. I keep yelling, stitch my stars again to the top of your hat, then turn away just as rain begins to clap through the trees. Echoed voice, miles crying, don't make a fool of me to the birds. You can't stand this steady drip. This man with half a tongue playing the smooth flesh of his cheek. So I am the cheek. So you are the gentle hand. So we remember, just as we are the dreams sinking the prayer, him clucking his song, his singing means nothing if nobody listens. It's a beer break. Sorry. The whole thing really had me just all screwed up, so I had to have a beverage. In the course of writing the book, of course, I realized that we create distance inside of ourselves and from each other in various ways all the time, generally not healthy ways. Like I was interested in finding perspective and then stumbled upon all of these unhealthy ways that I just had to explore, of course. So this is a poem wherein I'm thinking about the distance between people based on, or not based on, but rooted in the distance that somebody is creating within themselves. And I'm going to give a little shout out to Tony. because Tony was an early reader of this particular poem, and so I thought it would feel fitting to read this one. I don't think I've ever read it in front of people before, so. The letter I never send. Please stay with me until the end. I know I should find another way to begin, but last night I watched Matt Damon play a lost astronaut and thought of you. Who else could withstand such solitude and grow potatoes from his own shit? I kid, but listen, he was so loved. His crew voted against their lives to bring him home. At one point, he was drifting in utter darkness, so close to the ship, just past his captain's reach. The Earth or Mars like an endless mouth behind him. Of course she got him. Of course, she was still tethered to the ship. I know you hate it when I use stupid analogies, as if you don't know that bees are now an endangered species, and corn causes cancer, and babies are burning in Syria, and people are murdered because our eyes want us to believe color, and those hearts fear that God, and there's no point going on. You know more than I did when I was 18, a single mother, so far from the woman who'd listen to a machine count down her mom's last heartbeats and drive away, singing along to songs about lost love that would never be about anyone else again, because love is love is love is love. Listen, I don't know how else to say it. Before this woman was made to drag that insatiable wound, she was tethered to some small moon in her lap, cut but not cut from inside her. He was her gravity. You are. Please look away from Mars, dangling so angry in so much darkness. Look at my hand. Take the rope. This next poem is the longest poem I've ever written. It's probably gonna take about 20 minutes to read. I'm just kidding. I'm just totally fucking with you. Just kidding. No, but it did. It took me, like 13 years to write this poem, and it's 2 pages long, and I can't stop reading it when I give readings lately, and it just keeps calling me back to it. So thank you for holding it with me. It's not an easy poem, but it does feel, it feels right today, this day. I don't know what it's like where you are, but it is very cold here, and there is snow on the ground, and it is super windy. I feel like my power could go out at any time, and it's really just like the day that I wrote this poem a couple years ago. So, dear Mom, it's been an hour since the storm sirens began, yet I have felt freezing rain for days. Outside my window, the plastic bag snagged in the neighbor's tree is filling with wind, then letting it go over and again. I cannot stop breathing. It's been so long since we've spoken, I've given up trying to remember the last words you slurred. Your voice a broken shell I cut my ear against. You and I both know I hope for no ocean. Now that you're dead, do you think love is wasted on the living? I have pretended to look for you in every face since I left the last room we breathed in together. Remember when you dropped your favorite dress at your ankles and stepped into the street without me? Each night, some woman stumbled home and tried to cook your recipes. Her hands just cut you. I was 7. I promised then I'd never let her hold me. My life began inside you. What else is there to say? When I listened to a machine beep your last heartbeat, I never rested my head against her chest. Dear Mom, I'm still waiting for that horse in my heart to stamp its hooves again. I can drop a potted plant from my roof 100 times, though it takes just once for it to learn to brace against the next impact. I'm sorry the world made it so hard for you to know the difference between a caress and a closing fist. I'm sorry you left yourself alone, lonely, briefly, Today's rain gathered on the slats of the deck, and I admired the sky twice. Still, I wish I didn't need to see the trees, dark as charred bones, poisoned veins. I'm sorry I made you a disease I wasn't willing to admit I had for so many years. I close my eyes and try to summon your face, a hole blown through the center of every floor in this endless skyscraper inside me. Sometimes, in the mirror, I stick out my tongue and widen my eyes and cry like a baby who needs her mother to see her need, to be her initial witness, to prove she exists so she can stop hauling her body from city to city, bed to bed, searching for herself in the faces of strangers. When the temperature finally dropped, the rain froze a mosaic, angry, fragmented second sky. The snow is working hard to cover now. The sun never showed today. Still, I feel her setting. As a girl, I'd sit by the shore and study her early bruise and her evening blood spilling under a door to another room of the universe, as if I knew every gray day to come without her. Thanks for waving your hands at me. I think I'm gonna read just one more poem. Is that cool? Cool. This is a poem from my first full collection, Errata. And today's a hard day for me not to be home. No matter what family life was like growing up, everybody got together at the house my grandparents built on the lake, on a bay of Lake Michigan. And I miss being there. I miss those people. I miss mostly being able to run away from everybody and go and sit by the water. I am of the water in every possible way. So it's hard for me to live here in Omaha, Nebraska and feel sort of landlocked. I loved Lake Michigan growing up. And when I went to grad school, which is where I met Tony at Northern Michigan. So when I lived in Marquette, I fell so in love with Lake Superior that it was my spiritual place, right? Like some people go to church, I go sit by the lake. That's just how it is. So because I'm missing the lake today and I'm missing my people and my place, I wanted to finish with this poem, which is, I should give a nod to Sandra Beasley. This poem is after a poem of hers, and it's my poem for Lake Superior. So thank you very much again for being here. Thanks, Tony, and happy Easter, everybody. My lake. My lake has many rooms, and one, which is red, with a door that's always open but chained. My lake owns boxing gloves. She owns lingerie. She can swing, she can cha-cha, she can salsa and tap, but refuses a simple slow dance. My lake learned early to rest the needle without a scratch. She's been classically trained in lovemaking. When she wants to ride a roller coaster, she does it alone. When she lets her hair down, men go blind. My lake doesn't take any shit. She wears stilettos in ice storms, does crosswords in pen. She eats red meat. Her porch needs painting. Her flowers need weeding, but my lake reads palms in 12 different languages. If my lake puts her hand to your chest, she decides. At times, whole days can pass when she won't let anyone near her. She freezes just before she murders her own shore. It's been years, and still my lake won't name the delicate sound of ice taking them brushing away. She might say it's the train of a wedding dress or the rain falling on a glass slipper. There are times she sees the grace of two loons gliding, their bodies a duet over breaking water, and she slows herself. she makes a cradle. Thanks. Should I do a closing?
My jazz hands were the applause.
Thanks, Allie. Jazz hands back at you.
Yeah.
I've got all of us unmuted now, and it's gonna jump back and forth, however he decides now. But I do want to say thank you to both of you for doing this. I really appreciate your patience early on, and my apologies for the horror that happened before we went.
I mean, we all shared the pain equally. So, you know, a burden is lighter when 3 people carry it.
Thank you.
Can't unsee that.
No, we never will. To
I'm gonna go put lye in my eyeballs now.
Costa.
To everybody who is watching us, I just want to say thank you for watching. And I also want to say, if you head over to the Glass website, and specifically the Crucible version of that, so it's class-poetry.com/crucible.html. There is a little picture of some tickets. If you click on that, you can donate and send a little bit of money to Lisa and Allie. All the money from that is going to go directly to them. So definitely do that. And if you're watching this and you're interested, we're hopefully going to do some more of these in the future. Just kind of watch this space. But otherwise, Lisa, Allie, you both did amazing. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jinx, Allie. And thanks, Allie, for reading with me. I was really happy to hear you.
Yeah, it was great. And you know, it's really funny because before the reading, I decided to pull a card, and I got "When Life Gives You Lemons." And I was like, I wonder what that means. I wonder if that means that things are not going to go off as planned. And as soon as I saw that big genitalia on the screen, I was like, oh, that's the lemon.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to make lemonade. That's what he was
He
doing.
was. He was.
Sure.
All right.